March the 20th, 2024. Guys, you're looking at an image that's an AI generated image. You see more and more of them online now. More and more YouTubers are using them, and more businesses are using them. This is from a company. I'll put a link to it on the bottom if you're interested. I do not suggest all of the AI gear that you can see out there. You got to be very careful, because one thing that I've noticed, Google has an AI, and I don't remember the name of it yet, but they have a Facebook page. It looks like their AI Facebook page, and you go there, and if you click on the link to do it, it infects your computer immediately with something that Malwarebytes or anything like that will not take off instantly. I mean, it's done. So if you're going to go to a site, make sure it's not a Facebook link. I'm not saying that the Google site itself is infected or has a problem, other than what all of them, they're having some generation problems, all of the companies. But don't use anything but their direct links, because definitely there's an article out yesterday that is showing how that happens. It shows the Facebook page for the Google AI, and then the link has been put in there, and that is the critical malware that when it gets in there. So be very careful. But it's very simple. On this one, and probably the last dozen or so videos I've done, I've used it. And this one, I will put a link to it. It's only about $5 a month. You get about 100 images, and you type in what you're looking for, and it can give you different samples and different things like that. And it does two things. It kind of brings more into the image about the subject of your video, and it also bypasses any copyrights. Like a lot of times it's hard to find art that will match your video as far as the thumbnail. But here, because you've generated, there is no copyright. You can't claim copyright on it, or I don't think. You can, but in other words, you won't get a copyright strike from anyone, because this image is different from anyone that's ever been generated. Maybe using some of the same components, I don't know. What you're looking at is what I would have called a futuristic image. Say Wall Street, or in any major economic center in any of the cities around the world. For instance, let's just use Wall Street. You got your big banks, all of that. But in the center, there's a controlling force, this black rock of a pyramid with a digital coin there. And what we're looking at, and what I was typing in, it took me a few times to get this, was the changes that are coming with digital currency, and the controlling factor of all banks. And guys, was it one of the Rothschilds? I'm sure someone will put it in the comments and correct it, that said, "I'd care not who wins political races, but who controls the banks." And with BlackRock, for instance, I think it's one of the largest in the world. And when you see an industry like that, and again, you're not worried about politics, you're just worried about the banks, then it is one of the most powerful entities on the planet. And so we know that in this day and time, especially if you understand that there's a lot of demonic activity going around, you can tell it, you can feel it, you can see it, you can read about it. But some of these entities that control these organizations have been on this planet a long time in one form or fashion or the other, whether it's through spiritual takeover, like you have someone has been possessed, just like it says those spirits go from the river in Revelation, they go forward to the kings to bring them to the battle. Well, same thing, and for your major industries that have been here a long time, and doing the same thing, just growing bigger and bigger with more control. I think that has been put in place a long time ago. That's what we're looking at, except in this image, the future has started. Now, again, we've been talking about this for quite a while, and the move into total asset, all of your assets, all of everyone's assets, whether it's loans, anything like that, bonds, stocks, cash, turned into digital currency. In other words, a digital holding. But in this chart, you've got a red line here and a blue line here. The red line represents MicroStrategy Bitcoin holdings. They've been doing this for 4 years. This is 50,000 as far as, I guess, the amount of coins to go up to 250,000 here. But in 4 years, this is 9/15/2020, starting of the chart, and it goes up until March the 15th, just a few days ago. So for 4 years, MicroStrategy has been the Bitcoin holding manager, and we've seen that Bitcoin get up around 80,000 a piece. Now, to me, I think it's going to all crash at one time, and everybody's going to be left holding the bag. Now, when in the Bible it says that gold and silver will be cast into the streets, on that day of the Lord, and because it was the stumbling block of the iniquity of the people. Well, they didn't have Bitcoins, but I'm going to throw this in there with it, except this is more dangerous. At least gold and silver is physical, and it has electronics value, okay? Now, of course, gold is way out of the reach and silver for many people, but they're going to start splitting these costs of the Bitcoins in half and doubling the amount that's available. But it's going to be only for the rich. Even if you're splitting it when you're talking about an $80,000 coin, it's going to be for the extremely rich. The rest of folks like us are going to get left behind. But in March the 15th, what is that? That's 5 days ago, 5 days ago today, BlackRock got into it, and now in 5 days they have surpassed MicroStrategy's holdings for 4 years. So now BlackRock is the number one holder of Bitcoin all of a sudden in 5 days. Now, in this article came out yesterday evening, it says BlackRock seeds Ethereum-backed digital liquidity. All your funds are about to get liquidated into a digital purse. Of course, we talked about all the small banks collapsing. There will be a few pushing buttons, but they seeded it with $100 million. That's where you see this chart come in, saying having surpassed MicroStrategy in the size of its holdings amid the furious success of spot Bitcoin ETFs. And so that's what we've seen for the last year is different digital coins rising and falling, but Bitcoin has always been propped up. It continues to rise. So they were waiting to see which one of these systems would surpass the rest. And they've seen that Bitcoin has done it. So it looks like Bitcoin, whether they rename it or to a Fed coin or whatever, but it looks like that is going to be the one world money system. It says the world's largest asset manager has taken the next step forward towards a single ledger, instantaneous settlement, and ending illicit activities in the view of CEO Larry Fink. Now, they don't want any illicit activities going on. Again, we talked about your taxes will be deducted and all that. But, guys, you know who the number one instigator in illicit banking activities are? It's the banks, the big banks. I think it was one of the big ones. It wasn't BlackRock. One of the big ones. And BlackRock is into a lot of holdings and all of that bonds, but they got fined $300 million last week for rigging the books on something. But they made like $80 billion or something off that transaction, so they paid a fraction in, knowing ahead of time that they would be caught and have to pay that fine. But look at the advantages of it. Spend a few million, make a few billion. And a lot of people have been guilty of that, and there's a lot of investors, especially in the upper echelon in these businesses. It says BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, which is all about to be the digital assets, has filed United States Securities and Exchange Commission SEC Form D for the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund. This marks the launch of BlackRock's first tokenized asset fund. saying, according to the filing, BlackRock created the fund in 2023 but has yet to launch it. Form D is used to obtain various exemptions. BlackRock indicated that it is seeking an exemption under the Investment Company Act Section 3C, which exempts it from certain SEC regulations. Sorry to laugh, guys. The fund was created under the jurisdiction of the British Virgin Islands. The fund will have $100 million minimum investment. Again, we're not invited to the party. And be offered by Securitize, a U.S. digital asset security firm, which will also conduct the sale of the tokens. The form shows $525,000 in sales commissions and indicates the size of the funds is indefinite. The form was signed on March 14th. The fund will be tokenized on the Ethereum blockchain with an ERC-20 token called BUIDL, which currently has one holder and $0 on chain market cap, according to Etherscan. It's about to go crazy, guys. Now, again, it's not something I would, even if I had the money, that I would touch. Even if I had billions of dollars, it would never get near banks and investments like that. It may be buying farmland and doing things to help folks out, but it would never be an investment. So many people, though, are tempted on the easy money. So the website also indicated that the fund received a transfer of $100 million on March the 4th. Now, even though they didn't start talking about it till 10 days later on the 14th, they had everything in place. And if you want to, you can go there and look at the actual form under the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the Form D with BlackRock's names on it. And it's in this. It says BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidities Fund SEC filing. Again, you can click on that when you come to here and read it. It's just a basic form. And they're talking about congratulations to BlackRock and Securitize. There's probably a merger in there, and there's probably some mutual ownership between the two. Congratulations on the launch of BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund. Guys, you just read the name of the one world money system. There's another great milestone for the tokenization of assets. Yeah, let's take everything you got and put it in a token that is not worth anything when it's controlled by the party you're not in. Says it has tokenized assets for asset manager KKR and Spanish real estate investment trust Mancipi, as well as a formed partnership with SBI Digital Markets in Singapore and bought currency fund manager OnRamp Invest, which had over $40 billion in assets under management around the world, guys. One world money. BlackRock Spot Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund was among the first to receive the SEC approval in January. Of course it was. Its CEO, Larry Fink, who has been generally bullish about BTC, with reservations, told Bloomberg just after the ETF approval, kind of keeping it on the down low, getting ahead of the game. We believe the next step going forward will be the tokenization of financial assets. Did you hear that? That's what we've been talking about for a year, and what we've all discussed in the comments. Tokenization of your financial assets. Are you still going to leave them in the banks? Are you really going to do that? Are you going to, before I would let anything I owned, if you did have, I guess from retirement to 401k to bonds and stocks, I would get out of that. I don't care if it was early withdrawal or whatever. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, just common sense, especially with today's information. Take the losses, get out of it, buy yourself stuff that you don't have that you're going to need for you and your family to survive. This is not an advertisement. This is what I tell my friends and family. We believe the next stop going forward, again, will be the tokenization of financial assets, and that means every stock, every bond will be on one general ledger, guys. Every investor, you and I, will have our own number, our own identification. We could rid ourselves of all issues around illicit activities about bonds and stocks and digital by having tokenization, Fink added. Now, we're not just talking about Bitcoin. They're going to tokenize into that system everything you have. Whether or not you get it, how you will be paid back may be slow and painful. We'll just have to see. If you want to risk that, do it. He said that he went on to praise customization strategies through tokenization and instantaneous settlement. Oh, yeah, let's make it sound good as the devil slides his hand into your wallet to control everything, not just puppet strings, but your purse strings. As we detailed previously, the bottom line is that while Bitcoin was the pioneer in Wall Street's institutionalization race, having seen the starting success of Bitcoin ETF adoption, the financial titans, including Goldman, BlackRock, and now JP Morgan, have set their sights on what comes next, which is something near and dear to the people who manage trillions. Yeah. The fastest, cheapest, and most effective way to tokenize everything from information to data to money itself, and they have picked the token to do it. Here you go. So keep a close eye on what happens on May 23rd when the SEC is reportedly pushing hard against ETF approval for the second biggest digital asset, with all three of the largest U.S. financial institutions pushing hard. Any resistance will die a quick and painless death. It will be quick. I don't know how painless it will be. But if you guys, it's hard to tell friends and family about certain things, you know. It's just the nature of it. There's no prophet in his hometown. It's an old saying. But you can try to spread the word. Talk to your friends. Show them this video. All of my videos are shareable. You'll never get a copyright strike or a complaint from me but for sharing my information. I don't always type please share in there, but just so you know, you'll never hear me unless you take it and edit it into something that it's not. Then we may have to talk about that, but just keep it the way it is, and I don't mind you sharing it. Or use segments, but don't change it into something that it's not. So it will keep us both out of trouble in that way. But everything's up for sharing here. Now, again, think about what they're saying. You may want to reread this. I read it a couple times. You may want to reread this. What is he saying? The fastest, cheapest, and most effective way to tokenize everything. Basically, we could say steal everything from information to data to money itself. And they have picked the token to do it with. Guys, here we go. Get your act in line. Get everything you need that you can afford in line. If you've got toys and stuff that you don't need, get rid of them while there are some buyers out there. Someone may want a boat or a motorcycle in this economy. That is not a lot, though. All of that's fading quickly. So if you got them, then you're thinking about, well, I got a nice boat or whatever it is out here, camper, whatever it is, and you say, well, we're gonna be fine in a couple of years. We'll be still doing vacations and going and fishing. Well, that's not going to happen. You better get survival food and all the supplies that you need, medical supplies, survival supplies, protection supplies, whatever it is that you need, and I'd say some communication, shortwave if you have a license. But without a license, you can listen. CB radios, you don't need a license, and signals can be relayed because there's going to be something to happen. Many call it a black swan event that's going to shut down a lot of things. Now, I don't see how their plans would be an overall shutdown of the internet. How are they going to operate the digital currency system? But it could be a very limited internet and a very restricted one, right? But in the end, it won't matter because the man upstairs, our Father in heaven, is going to shut down all things that was formed against us. And this is definitely in that category. If you don't want all your assets basically stolen, they're going to take everything you got. It's going to start out with the banks, your bonds, your stocks, anything like that. Digitize it. That's how you will get to it. Then it will be through tax acquisition. You got how many armed IRS agents out there now? Property tax is increasing to where you can't afford it. It's all about the takedown. And what you got to do is stay awake, stay alive as long as you can, hope to make it to our Savior sets his foot down on that Mount of Olives. Why? Because you want to take care of your friends and family the best you can. You want to be there and provide. And now providing means smart. Being smart about where your money is, guys. It's not going to be a popular video, I understand that, especially in some media. But it is what it is. We're watching it, guys. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.